Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we finally have the Nanmu Dragon Soul version of their newest Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is a model I've been really looking forward to because not only is it really fun to, of course, have a T-Rex from Nanmu, as they have made some amazing Tyrannosaurs so far, but it's also fun because we actually have a breakout scene here for the T-Rex, and, you know, that's probably the most iconic scene in that entire film, and I do have a couple versions of it already, but it's always fun to have another one. And in fact, this is actually like, I have a few like the Star Ace where the Rex is already out and it's chasing Ian. I also have the Chronicle Collectibles version where it's kind of letting out that roar as it comes out. Now we have this version here where it's just preparing to walk out. So it's actually really fun to have different versions of that breakout scene. And this is one that I have yet to actually see made by anyone. So it's definitely really cool to have one made by Nanmu. You can see the box art looks amazing here, as it always does. Really nice, very colored image with the kind of backdrop, kind of like a almost like a sunset going on back there, which is pretty cool. And then if we turn the box around and we take a look at the back, you can see a little preview here of the figure itself. And again, you know, it looks really good from what we can see here on the box. That actually looks absolutely fantastic when it comes to not only the sculpt, but also the paintwork. So definitely excited to break this out finally and take a look at it. So let's pop it out of the box and do just that. So first of all, as always, we've got ourselves the art card, and the art card looks pretty darn nice. Definitely has the same image, I think, that we had seen on the art card previously. So I don't think it's any different. But we have the Rexy colors again for the T-Rex. But here on the back, you can see, I think this is a separate piece, possibly. Maybe there's two parts in here, because I think we just have the regular art card. And then we have this, which basically tells us how we assemble the wire and everything for the base that we have for our Dragon Soul Tyrannosaurus. On top of that, we have the base itself, and you can see the base has the poles coming out. I just put these in. These were a separate piece. They don't come already in. You can see if we pull it out, there's just a hole right there. You just slide them in there. They go in pretty easily. If I can figure out where the spot is, there we go. They go in pretty easy. You can see how they're kind of like falling and stuff, because obviously the T-Rex has broken the wires. Everything's kind of fallen apart, which is really cool. And there's also a big chunk taken out right here, which is pretty neat. So the base looks very good. On top of that, we also have the wire that we're going to have to throw on here at some point in the near future, and the little stand for the Tyrannosaurus, because this is the area where our T-Rex will stand. I think it goes back here, possibly. Yes, so there's like a little section back here that we would just connect that to. I think that's right. Still moves around a little bit, shockingly. I thought that would like pop in, but you can see there's a little base back there where our T-Rex stands. I actually really wish that would have actually connected, maybe like a magnet or something to kind of make that connect right there. Would have been cool, because nothing's holding it in there. It just kind of slides. So you just have to position. It's not a big deal, but it would have been fun to have like a magnet so you can kind of, you know, slide it and they won't come apart. And then we've got Rexy herself in all of her glory. Let's just move this somewhere else for a second, and then we'll take a look at Rexy. You can see the Tyrannosaurus definitely looks beautiful, that is for sure. Sculpt-wise, it looks really, really good, and we already knew that from the promotional images. Paintwork-wise as well, it definitely looks nice. It always seems like they put a little bit of extra paintwork into the Dragon Soul series compared to your standard release, and I feel like they did that again for this T-Rex. I'm not sure why, it just looks like there's a little bit extra paintwork to it. Like specifically, I could see like some spots and stuff that are showing up here. I don't remember that on the more mainline version. And then of course you would just take the Rex, put the peg right there into the hole, and there our T-Rex is now standing on its base. That's actually terrifying that it's standing there on such a small base. It honestly looks like it would be top heavy and like it's going to fall on its face. And that honestly is, again, quite scary. However, somehow it's not doing that, which is definitely good news, because I'd be devastated if that happened. So, as always, let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at all of this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Tyrannosaurus of Rexy or Roberta or whatever you'd like to call her, you can see the sculpt looks incredible. We have the mouth just slightly open here on the T-Rex as it's breaking through the fence and the wire and everything. I love that aspect. They've done similar things like this in the past. Kind of the same with the Dragon Soul Spinosaurus, where the mouth is just open enough that you can see the teeth and kind of see in there a little bit, but you don't have a wide view. And of course, you don't have an articulated jaw. The jaw is completely stagnant, as the models usually are, especially when it comes to the Dragon Soul series. But look at how nice that looks, especially looking at it from straight in front. It looks super impressive. You can see the nostrils sculpted out, highlighted with a darker tone. The teeth as well have an incredibly realistic appearance to it. You can see they have that very realistic coloration or material they use for the teeth. There's a nice shine to them, and there seems to have been a nice brownish wash applied to give them even more realism, definitely making those teeth look as lifelike as it can possibly get. Very, very impressive when it comes to the teeth. I can kind of make out the tongue in there, but we just can't get in enough to really see it because, again, the mouth is closed for the most part. Not closed, but close to closed. But you can see the gums and everything there on the lower jaw. They're nicely painted, also sport that nice gloss coat, giving it that saliva-like look. But as you move up here into the face, you can see the skin texture is phenomenal, especially when you look right here on the lower jaw. The scale detail really pops. You can see how much variation to the scale detail there is. Definitely a nice light kind of dry brushing down there has brought out all of the cracks and crevices because it allows that brownish tone to creep through the scales. And we can see that we darken here as we run along the lower jaw. Also right here, again, another kind of a cluster of darkened skin tone right there as you move along. And then as you move up into the face, you do have a nice light dry brushing, kind of like a light gray dry brushing that's been applied, which makes the detail in the face pop as well, and also just generally lightens the coloration there of the palate area. And then moving back here up into the area behind the eye right there, which looks pretty good. There is that striping that we see on Rexy, and it could have been a little smoother as far as the application of that striping goes. You can see it's not perfect, and doesn't look bad though. I will say I had heard of a few other people making mention of that striping on theirs and it not being smooth. It doesn't look half as bad in person as I honestly was almost expecting it to, but it isn't quite as natural as I'm used to when it comes to Nanmu's paint job. But again, by no means is that a bad paint job. It still looks exceptional if you ask me. Of course, we have this darker variation of brown running along the snout. You can see how the lighter browns kind of creep through the darker browns. We also have a darker brown around the eye, which looks really nice. The eye is painted beautifully and also sports a gloss coat to it, which you can see there, giving it that kind of genuine shine like you would expect for the eyes. So the head looks honestly phenomenal when it comes to this T-Rex. You can also see up here on the top, again, the fine detail, the skin texture, and the paintwork all looks really, really good. As we move back here into the neck, you see a striping pick up because that's exactly what you see on Rexy. You can also see the neck is turned toward the dinosaur's left. You can see a little creasing right there in the skin of the neck, a few kind of osteoderms as you move down here along the side of the neck. Also, again, nice variation of browns as well as a dry brushing of either a darker variation of brown or maybe a light dry brushing of a black moving through, which definitely helps to highlight the skin texture. And we can also see how the lighter browns kind of creep through a lot of the cracks and crevices of the skin moving down the course of the neck. As you move down into the underside of the throat, we've got a pretty smooth transition to the lighter tone here of the throat of the Tyrannosaurus, and then we have kind of like that light sort of off-white or a light gray, similar to what we see on the lower jaw there moving down into the throat region. Moving back a little further, you can see the shoulder blade there protruding from the skin. You can also see that darker variation of a brown running down through the shoulder blade down into the arms. The arms are very nicely sculpted. They also display nice muscle definition. You can see the elbow present, and of course the fingers and the nails are painted with a nice glossy black. The hands are kind of held into the body, which is also a nice natural look, I think, for the dinosaur. As you move back here into the stomach region, you can again see how this lighter tone has been kind of dry brushed on. It's a little more obvious here that it's more of a dry brushing, but it still looks pretty smooth as far as that application goes. We can see some of those kind of spots that we have on the Rex that I've heard people complain about, but I actually kind of like it because I think it just adds a little more depth to the paint job, just adds a little more to the Rex that I think the more mainline figure was kind of missing, whereas we have kind of picked that up here on this one. And you can see again the really smooth transition up to the darker brown running along the back. As you move back into the hip bone here, you can see some scoots moving over the top of the hip. You can again see how it's a darker tone, but the lighter variations of browns kind of creep through the scoots there on the top of the hip. We continue to have that striping moving down the course of the back. As you move down here, you can see some really nice paintwork again. The transition from this darker brown to the lighter brown here is incredibly smooth. You can kind of see a few more really subtle spots and stuff as you move along here. As you move down, you've got the knee right there, the calf muscle as well. Both legs are kind of in the same similar spot as the Rex is just preparing to kind of step up and over the little area there to escape the paddock. So you can see how the legs are kind of in the same similar spot. As you move down here, you've got really nice scoots running down the front of the toes, and that might be one of the most impressive looking foot sculpts I've ever seen for a Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus. The detailing right there is honestly out of this world. The paintwork as well looks great, but man, that is just super impressive. Like in between the toes, that skin texture and skin detail is mind-blowing. But as you move down into the nails, you can see the nails are also nicely sculpted and again have a genuine sharp look to them. They also have a black tone, but also kind of like a light variation of a brown sort of dry brushed over them to give them a little bit more paintwork. And you can also see that there's a bit of a shine to them as well. We can see the dew claw over there. This foot does not have a peg, but that foot of course does. It's only held in with one peg. And then we move back up here into the tail. You can see a few more skin wrinkles leading up from the thigh. And you can also see again more of that lighter tone here running along the underside, more of that nice variation of brown, and then we transition up to a darker variation of brown with that striping as we lead up. You have a nice curve to the tail as you lead out. Nothing super crazy or impressive, just a nice natural slight curve to the tail as we lead along. I will say the majority of the figure is definitely a resin. You can feel it, but as you lead out here, the tail kind of flexes a little bit, so this area is definitely not a resin. I don't know how much. I'll say this is definitely resin, so it's like right around here somewhere. It must transition to a little bit of a softer tail, which I think is a great choice because it definitely helps to stop any kind of damage on the figure in transit. Sometimes it's a little tough to ship resin figures and stuff like that. As you move along the underside, if my camera focuses, there we go, you can see the fine detail looks really nice. The paintwork also looks really nice, and we lead up here into the underside. We do have the correct scale detail here for the underside of the stomach leading into the chest that you would see on a Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus, which I have mentioned in the review of the more mainline version. Again, they did do a really good job on the actual accuracy department of this Rex. And then you take a look here at the opposing side of the head, and it again looks absolutely gorgeous. The sculpt looks great, the paintwork looks great. You can again see that striping looks, a little bit less smooth, but honestly I think it still again looks way better in person than I was expecting it to. So it looks really good. The eye looks fantastic, and the general skull shape and everything, like the shape of the head, looks so good and picture perfect in my opinion to what Rexy looks like. As we move back here into the neck, you can see the skin is stretching a little bit more so than what we had seen on the other side, because of course the T-Rex is facing away from us. We lead down the arms in pretty much the same position over here as we had seen on the initial side, but as you move through, you can see the fine detail continues to look just as gorgeous over here. You can also make out the rib cage right here a little bit in the stomach region. And then as you move back, you can again see how this leg is just ever so slightly more forward than what we had seen on the first side. But the paintwork continues to look so nice on this as you move along. Again, down into the foot sculpt. The foot sculpt also looks great over here on this side. Same paintwork and everything, again with the darker tone running down along the scoots. And you do yet again see those random spots showing up here and there. But I actually, like I said, I do kind of like that. I think it looks nice. It's not like when you had the old Chronicle Breakout Rex where the spots were just really ugly and annoying, and they were just very obviously just splotches of paint on the figure. This definitely looks a lot more natural and is pretty much something that you do see on the T-Rex, so they did a very good job as far as applying it, in my opinion. And then as you lead up, you again have some more wrinkling and creasing. You can see some really nice tensing here in the thigh of the T-Rex. Very impressive tensing, actually. And then as you move back, again, we have the nice curve to the tail. So the T-Rex itself is fantastic. We also have the base here, and you can see the base is just kind of like a little area that sort of comes out, no specific shape or anything to it. You've got a nice little earthy area there where our T-Rex is standing, and some nice sculpt work to that area, some nice paint work. We can see the footprints there as well, and then again that peg hole for our T-Rex to stand in. And then if you look here at the underside, you can actually see the limited edition numbers. So we have 600 total for this release, so not a whole lot. Hopefully if you wanted one, you were able to get a hold of one. I don't know if there's any more available, but I will of course link you guys to Lana Time Shop because that's where I purchased mine. And then we have the second part of the base, which is the paddock fence. And you can see as you move along here, the sculpt of this area is super impressive. You can even see again the area where it's kind of broken, and we see the inside here of the paddock fence as they were creating it. You can also see all the variation of color that has been applied, all the cracks and crevices and weathering to this area that you would expect or want to see. It is extremely well done and definitely looks great overall. You also have this black area here underneath, and then if we turn it around here, you can see what the back looks like. Again, just as beautiful as the front, just now missing that chunk taken out. And then as you lead up here, when it comes to the actual fence posts, you can see they have the hooks and everything exactly as you would expect to see on the fence. And then you lead up, you have the bigger hook up there, and a nice kind of like a bluish gray coloration for the fence posts. Now they only have holes here for the ones on the side. Same deal for this one over here, but this one has the actual hooks and stuff, the way you see the fence actually created in Jurassic Park. And overall, again, it's really well done. They definitely did their homework when it comes to the accuracy department of the fence, even including the lights in the positioning that they are on the fence and everything. So definitely a really nice base, again, to go with an absolutely incredible Tyrannosaurus model. So here is the Tyrannosaurus now in the setting that we have going on here in the model without, of course, the wire connected yet. We haven't put the wire on or anything yet, which we will do here in a moment. But you can see how cool it looks here as the T-Rex is just about to step through and, walk out through the paddock. And I believe that Nanmu actually now has made a version of the fence that kind of continues. So you could buy numerous pieces of that fence and make a massive diorama with this. And, of course, have this area where the T-Rex is escaping. And now that I've said those words out loud, it's actually very tempting. I really think I might do that because I just think it would be probably the coolest way to make a diorama with this Tyrannosaurus, and honestly could be one of the best Jurassic Park dioramas I could imagine. But we also again have the wire now. I just pulled it out of this packaging that we had here, so we'll get that out of the way. And we have to basically feed the wire through each of these little holes that we have over here on the side, and then move it through here, and then we cut it and then basically shape it to however we want. So I'm going to, of course, go ahead and do that off camera. There's no point in doing that on screen here because that's not really something you're probably going to be interested in seeing. So I'll go ahead, I'll clip the wires all off, put them through, and then we'll check it out from there. So there we go, we have our wires on now. The T-Rex is breaking through, and it does look absolutely as epic as it gets. The wire, the only thing that I think is a little bit of a downside for the wire is once you move it, as you can see, the wire isn't stable in there. Like if I move it, see it falls out, and it moves around no matter where you go with it. So I think when you do decide to pose it, you might want to like put it into one spot and then leave it there, because the more you move it around, I think the more the wires might fall out. Now I gotta try to find where that was over here from the side because I can't really see the hole. There we go. Oh, now another piece out from up above. Now, I am no wire bending professional, and there's probably a better way to do it than the way that I did it here. A better way that would make it a little more effective, maybe, for the wire to stay in. But I don't know how to do it exactly. Maybe I should have put like a little dab of glue on the wire in each of the holes, and it probably would have held it still a little better. I'm not entirely sure, but once I actually, put the entire thing together here, if I can get in without hitting the wire, and then finding the spot to line that up. There we go. I think I have it in there. You can see, again, it does look, it's not focusing on the T-Rex correctly, there we go. You can see it does look absolutely incredible with our Tyrannosaurus, again, breaking out of the paddock. And one thing that is really cool is there's actually a lot of wire. I was worried that maybe there wouldn't be enough, so I might have been a little stingy with my wires. And then as it turns out, I still have all this wire left, so if you do have this on its way, don't be afraid to use as much wire as you really want to for the paddock, because as it appears, we have quite a bit that we could use. I could probably actually take a lot of this wire off and then redo it entirely. There's still so much left over. But again, it does look insanely cool once it's actually finished and put together. But as far as a size goes for our T-Rex, we'll try to measure it while it's still in here, possibly. I'm not sure. There we go. For a length from the snout to the tail, I'd say right around the 17-inch mark, or about 43 centimeters in length. For a height, the highest point to the top of the neck, about 7 3/4 inches, or around 19.5, closing in on 20 centimeters. And then for the highest point of the paddock here, the fence, you're looking at about 9 inches, or around 23 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, and the Collect a Human Being, all in here next to our Nanmu Soul of the Dragon Tyrannosaurus. And you can see it does have a pretty darn good size, pretty impressive size as a whole, since it's much larger than everything that we have here next to it. We've also got a Mattel Raptor stepping in here for a comparison next to the T-Rex, but I really don't think we need very many comparisons again this time around, because we already know roughly what the size is of the T-Rex from the first Tyrannosaurus release. And to give you an idea of a size with this one and the first version, well, I shouldn't say first version, the most recent version that was the mainline version that was released with this. There are both of the Tyrannosaurs together. We have the more when dinosaurs ruled the earth sort of version, and then we also have the Soul of the Dragon version. And you can see that they both look absolutely epic. Honestly, they do. And looking at the two together, I don't notice as much difference in the paint as I thought I did initially. I don't know which one I would say I prefer, but I will say they both look great. That's definitely a very obvious statement, but you can see that they are pretty much the same size, again, as you would expect them to be, just obviously posed differently. And then for one final comparison, and the comparison that I think probably a lot of people would like to see here, we have the older Nanmu Tyrannosaurus, the very first version of Rexy, here next to the newest version of Rexy from Nanmu. And you can see that the newer version is ever so slightly larger. It's obviously a little bit taller, but you can see just there with the two head sculpts kind of facing off that the newer Soul of the Dragon version is a little bit bigger. The body mass is a little bit more impressive on the newer one. So there is a little bit of a difference in size between these two. But again, they both are really quite beautiful interpretations of a Jurassic Park T-Rex. So this brand new Nanmu Soul of the Dragon Tyrannosaurus Rex is definitely another really cool release from Nanmu. You know, they always knock it out of the park. I never have any doubt in my mind when purchasing a Nanmu model that it's going to show up looking like anything but a masterpiece. And that is definitely the same case here. It's absolutely one of the best Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus models that are on the market currently. And it would be really tough for another company to come along and make a T-Rex that can even compete with this, and really tough for anybody to defeat it. I would say that the newer Tyrannosaurs from Nanmu are probably the best versions of Rexy that you have when it comes to a model like this out currently. The sculpts are so spot on, it is absolutely insane. You can tell Nanmu really did their homework when it comes to sculpting these Tyrannosaurs out this time around, more so than they did the last time. The last time time, they were great. You know, they really did have a great sculpt on them, but I feel like they've just absolutely perfected the sculpt with this newest round of Tyrannosaurs and really hammered out one of the best, most screen-accurate interpretations of the Jurassic Park T-Rex that I've ever seen. On top of that, the paint job is really nicely done. It looks pretty much just like the paint job did on the mainline version, so there's not a whole lot of difference when it comes to the paint apps. Like when it comes to the Soul of the Dragon version of the Spinosaurus, I did notice a little bit more was added to the Soul of the Dragon version. This version, not as much. I think maybe there's a little bit more when it comes to like the kind of spots and stuff on the body, but outside of that, for the most part, the paint apps look very similar, which means they've done a great job yet again, because I felt like the paint apps on the first T-Rex were really well done, and yet again the same case here. They definitely captured the colors of Rexy quite nicely, and overall the paint is very smooth when it comes to the application. The only thing that I think could maybe even be remotely considered not that smooth is the striping in the palette, but even that, in my opinion, looks far better than I expected it to be, with so many people in a few groups that I'm in making comments about how it didn't look natural. I think it actually looks way better in person, or at least on mine, than I was expecting. So that's definitely a plus as well. So overall, absolutely fantastic sculpt, absolutely fantastic paint. And then you also have the addition of the kind of fence that our T-Rex is breaking through, really giving you that super cool display of the breakout scene of Jurassic Park, and that as well is really nicely done. The actual fence itself looks great. They've definitely captured the likeness of the fence beautifully, and the sculpt and fine detail of the lower part is really well done. They've added a lot of paint apps there, and again, that area where it's kind of broken open looks great. And then once you actually apply the wire to it, it all comes together and definitely creates a really, really cool scene here for you to add to your Jurassic Park collection. And as I said earlier, they do have alternate pieces of the fence out now, where you can basically continue on with your paddock fence and make your display like a lot larger. If you got some plants and stuff, and then maybe got like a trackway in front of it and had some Ford Explorers that could match up to the size of this T-Rex, you could have an amazing display for sure. So if you are interested in this, again, I don't know for sure if it's sold out already. I would think it probably is, but I can't say positively because you just never really seem to know for sure. But I will add a link in the description to where I purchased mine on Lana Time Shop, where you can definitely still purchase the main version of this, but you might still be able to purchase this one. Not entirely sure, but the best way to find out is to head to the link in the description. Go check over on Lana Time Shop, see if you can grab yourself this absolutely incredible T-Rex, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.